Welcome to Coleman Report Live. I'm Bob Coleman. We're talking Main Street and the small business lenders who help it grow. Lance, good to see you. Happy New Year. Katie, Happy New Year. Anything important happen over the weekend, Katie?
Oh, I don't know. Just maybe a new bill passed, finally.
Yeah. The Katie Roach Full Employment Act is there. Lance, I hope you had a nice Christmas.
It was nice, Bob. I hope you did too. I think we all got a late Christmas gift last night.
We did. So we're going to talk about that. But we have some poll questions. First of all, we respect your time. We know we're going to have some new people on. So we like to do polls, then we'll show you the certificates later. But we'd like to do this. I like to do this from time to time. I know Lance and Katie are interested as well. And what are the logistics? How do you do this show? 44% do it at work, 0% are with other people. That makes sense. Social distancing, 52% from home, and 4% on the mobile device.
That's just like our good friend Paul, who watched us once from the golf cart.
That was interesting because I know in the past we've asked that question. They've done it in a conference room, but there were 0%, Lance.
Well, I think with social distancing in place, there's less gathering in the conference room for events like this.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Number 2, do you believe the legislation is better late than never, too little too late, is significant for Main Street, or fails to live up to expectations?
I got to be honest with you, Bob. In my case, it's significant for Main Street.
You're with the 18%, right?
Yeah, there's some things about the legislation that, are for individuals, but in terms of PPP, we got a pretty nice laundry list of fixes and an additional round of PPP funding and some CARES Act payments. So good stuff.
Yeah. Better late than never, 51%, too little too late, 14%, and fails to live up to expectations, 17%. Lance, I'm torn between that answer, your answer, significance, and better late than never. Katie, what's your weigh in on this? What's your opinion?
Well, I've only just begun to go through that bill. I think it is available now on Congress's website. However, it is loading very slow. I believe there's a lot of people on that page, and I was reading that it's like in terms of size about the 5th largest bill ever passed by Congress. So this is just difficult to even load the page, but I have been looking at it. I do think I'm kind of leaning toward the better late than never. I do think it's going to do a lot for Main Street, though. So I think those two answers are both great.
Yeah. And I said, this is real. There's no right answer. It's just personal opinion. So I appreciate you taking part of that. Katie, interesting way to come back from your nice holiday. I know you you were on an airplane, and you come back, and so you have some work to do. So back in the groove.
Right. I've been following all week. So, just kind of sneaking in on the news to check and see if it was passed yet and things like that. So, but I do have a lot to catch up with, especially since they have released that text now. So I'll be going through that over the week.
Yeah. Which of the following do you think is the most important provision of the bill? Blanket forgiveness of PPP loans less than 150, increase the guarantee percentage of 7A to 90%. Additional payments, principal and interest payments paid by SBA, or clarification of tax implications. And obviously all those are good.
Yeah, I need an all of the above.
Well, I didn't do that on purpose. Yeah, because they're all good. Blanket forgiveness, I think you could put me in that category.
Well, I think blanket forgiveness is very important, Bob, in setting up this next round of PPP. I think that, to give the participant banks and to give the borrowers comfort that it's going to work right this time, the blanket forgiveness on those loans under 150 is important.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. All of these are important. What about you, Katie? What do you think is the most important provision?
I have heard a lot of talk about that second one, the increased guarantee percentage for 7A loans. I've heard a lot of people who are very excited to see that included because there were rumors about that, but we didn't really know that for sure until very recently. So that's great news, and I think that's going to help a lot. all of these are great, though. I do like all of these, and there's just so much to unpack in that bill. It just includes basically all the things that everybody was pushing for, and they pushed them all together and made one bill. So it's really a great bill to encompass all these issues.
Very good. Joseph, do we have a slide on the certificates, Joseph? Because I know we have some new people on. Anyway, in the PDF, there's a certificate of training. Be sure and download that, keep track of that. That helps. There you go. That helps answers the question, what do you do for training? And whenever you log on, it's obviously honor system. Just log that off and you can sign it yourself and storm away. All right, let's talk about the bill. And I'm going to start off with a question from Ann, or a statement, which is interesting, Lance. Remember, for those of us in shutdown states, California, the PPP really covers nothing because we are shut down and have no payroll. What's your comment about that?
Well, it makes it very difficult to meet the requirements of spending the money 60% on payroll. She makes a very valid point. The question is, how long will they be shut down? Because the PPP will be in place until March. And so hopefully they'll be reopened and able to qualify for a PPP loan during that time period. But it's a very relevant point, Bob. There are some states where they have no payroll because they're shut down.
Right. So, Katie, when did the president sign the legislation?
So late last night, the president signed the bill. I even thought about writing up a thing about it, but I wanted to wait till there's more news about it.
Yeah.
It is that bill that we've been talking about, and I'm sure you talked about it quite frequently last week, that $900 billion coronavirus economic aid bill, which also includes the $1.4 trillion resolution to fund the government. So those have been combined. The bill is being called the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2021. So if you need to go look that up, it's also HR 133. So if you need to find that, that is on congress.gov now, so you can find it. And go through it. But like I said, it is very long and it takes a little while to go through.
Okay. And we're going to do that, and Lance is going to do that tomorrow. I know he's been working off the midnight oil and putting this together. So here's the deal. We're going to talk about what we think we understand is happening. You also have to understand that a lot of the verbiage, this is what they call a sense of Congress, and the administration will do the guidelines or do the specific guidelines. For example, Craig asked this question, which is a great question. Just to clarify, the $150,000 blanket forgiveness is also for current PPP loans. The answer is yes.
Yes.
Nowhere in the legislation does it specifically say it's for PPP first round funding, but that's going to be there. That's going to be there, right?
There is some language, Bob, I think that says is for PPP loans prior to and after the legislation is in effect.
Yeah. So that's where we are. Numbers are extra. Go ahead, Lance.
The one that's really interesting to me, Bob, is they have given SBA the authorization to create a 504 Express program.
Ooh, I don't even know about that one. There it is, 504 Express.
And I assume that means it would be delegated approval by CDCs. So
for loans under $500,000, yeah, that makes sense to me. I'm all for that.
Yeah, and most of the newer programs that are added outside of PPP will run, for instance, like the 90% guarantee. It's going to run until September 30, 2021.
Right.
The increase in the express guarantee will run until September 30, 2021. So, and if there is a 504 express, it'll, probably run to September 30, 2021.
We're going to have a cap on the loans. What is the largest 7A loan we could do, Katie?
I actually don't know that. I'm sorry. I'm still reading through it.
5, Lance?
I did not see in the legislation an increase in loan size.
Okay. But
So
I think it's going to be $5 million.
It's fine.
5, yeah. We love the guarantees, waiver and fees. We've talked about that. Express loans, the guarantee bumps to 75%, which is very attractive for lenders. There's plenty of money available in terms of the supply and demand argument. The lenders definitely have the supply backed up by all these guarantees. I'm a big fan of waiving the borrower and lender fees. That's good. See, and this is the weasel wording here. Allows the SBA to increase the guarantee to 90%. So the administrator could choose not to do that. I assume that
it'll get done.
or maybe they'll go a hybrid, maybe 90% up to $2 million in a lower amount over $2 million. I don't know. Extends the $1 million loan limit for Express and more funding for 504 and enhancing the microloan program. And we'll go through all those details.
You know what an interesting fact about this is, Bob? SBA's always been a zero subsidy program. And if you take away the lender and the borrower fees, SBA will not be a zero subsidy program.
Well, yeah, that's true. Russell says he's seen the specific language that it is retroactive. Thank you for clarifying that on the forgiveness. It says, do we know how or when our customers will be able to apply? Ask Jared. Lance, do you know the dates offhand off the top of your head?
Applying for simplified forgiveness, or
let's go both. Let's go apply for forgiveness.
It appears that the forgiveness form that will be necessary for simplified forgiveness under 150, SBA has 24 days to get that out. Don't really see them taking that long, but they could. In terms of getting guidelines out for this next round of PPP, it appeared that it was a 10-day requirement for SBA to get the guidelines and regulations out. So we may see more information on PPP by about the 5th or 6th of January. My guess is they'll roll the forgiveness form out pretty quickly as well, Bob, because they've already got 3 forms, and they've got the 3508S that they could slightly modify and make that the new forgiveness form.
And as I said, I'll be happy to write the form in one line which says, I am in compliance with the SBA regulation for forgiveness, and sign it. I don't think
well, the other thing is borrowers will be responsible for keeping the documentation. At least that's my understanding at this point. And participant banks in the forgiveness process will not be required to gather it. Plus, there's language in the bill that kind of further cements the fact that participant lenders can rely on borrower certification.
Well, I know you're going to spend a lot of time tomorrow on the webinar on what does good faith mean and what does the lender specifically need to do to be in, quote, compliance with the regulations. Scott, we have some more questions. Michael says, wasn't the whole purpose of the PPP loans for businesses would continue payroll when I shut down? The answer is yes, the PPP is for employment. So the theory is that we can do a third round of financing and our Main Street borrowers can then take that and hire people back. That is the purpose. Right, Katie?
Right. We're going to have that second round of PPP. So in this case, it is, again, that 60% must be used on payroll. They have kind of lightened up some of the rules about what can and cannot be forgiven, though. There is some more wordage in there that tells you that you can use it for various health-related modifications that you had to make. So that has been expanded. But otherwise, it's still primarily focused on maintaining payroll, maintaining employees.
They broaden, Bob, some of the expense categories that the 40% portion can be, and including stuff like accounting expense or cloud computing and some other things.
Now, this is where I have to criticize Congress or the agency or someone. It's not second draw eligibility. Let's do what the British do and have better descriptions. They have the bounce back program, which sounds so much better than a bounce back, right? Okay, we're going to bounce back, as opposed to we have a PPP second draw eligibility. Okay, here's Barry's question: If what happens if we didn't get the first PPP loan, Katie? Are we to the first guidelines, or do we need to have that reduction in revenues to fund it?
From my understanding, it's still under the basic first guidelines that we had before, and Lance is nodding, so I'm guessing I'm right.
Yeah, you're right.
So it's going to be, you can still get those loans if you didn't have one before. Maybe you're struggling more now. It would make sense to go ahead and apply for your first PPP loan, which will be under those original guidelines. Your second one is going to follow these new guidelines that were outlined in this bill.
Well, and there's some modifications, Bob. Example, restaurants and hospitality, instead of using 2.5 months worth of payroll, can use 3.5 months worth of payroll.
All right, we got a ton of questions. I'm going to bomb through these real quick. Russell says it does say retroactive for forgiveness loans, so thank you very much for that, Russell. Ramon says, do you know anything about Section 328, low interest financing? Let's hold off on that one. Williams says the maximum guaranteed amount has not been approved above $3.75 million. Again, we don't know that, William. The administrator could come in and change that from what I understand of the legislation. Is that your understanding, Lance and Katie?
It is, and that's, like I said, the SBA will have to put some guidelines on this in the short term. It is a good point with the maximum guaranteed amount at $3.75 million and a 90% guarantee, you wouldn't be able to get the $5 million loan.
Yeah, Murray, again, there's confusion on does the forgiveness cover first round of PPP loans, and the answer is yes, it does. It will happen. It'll be in the regs. Tony says it would be nice to be simple in the application of the process, but the lawyers need to get paid. All right, yeah, we'll go with that. Great question by Jared. Same fee structure this time around as last time for lender fees? And the answer is yes.
It's basically the same. They did change the under 50. The under 50 has a maximum of $2,500 or 50% of the loan amount.
And then Rocco says, will Section 1112 payments give micro and community advantage clients additional 5 months worth of payments? Lance, you sort of know these.
There are several categories of business. Right now, the Section 1112 payments is 3 months for most SBA borrowers, but there's 5 additional months for certain industries and certain types of loans like microloans.
Very good. Lance, tell us about the webinar you're doing tomorrow at 2:00 Eastern.
Well, we're gonna talk about the basics of the new legislation. We're not going to cover it all, as Katie was telling you, and our friend Chris Hearn last week was talking about this. If you try to dig through the entire piece of legislation, you'll spend a few hours trying to find just the parts that apply to PPP and SBA. What we're going to try to do is pull those parts out and share what we know in terms of how it's going to work in this new year.
Very good. Well, a lot of information. Katie, welcome back. Yeah, good luck with that. Between Christmas and New Year's, nothing's happening. I know, unfortunately, our friends from SBA are gonna be having to work hard as well. So, please send your more questions. We'll get to them tomorrow. And just send in. We have the registration details up on our website. Just shoot Joseph an email at joseph@colemanreport.com, and we'll take care of the registration for the webinar tomorrow. In any event, thank you for joining us today for Coleman Report Live and for supporting America's Main Street, one entrepreneur at a time.
Have a great day.